I'm Beth Schaefer, a member of the League of Women Voters of the Greater Dayton area, and I'm here today with candidates running for the Oakwood School Board. The candidates are Debbie DiLorenzo, Drew Moore, Vivian Johnson, and Nathan Reiter. Unfortunately, Ms. Johnson is unable to join us due to a prior commitment. We start our interviews by giving each candidate 1 minute to tell us about themselves and why they want to serve on the Oakwood School Board. So let's go ahead and we'll start with Debbie.
Okay, hello. My name is Debbie DiLorenzo. I'm an Oakwood resident for 21 plus years. I have 4 Oakwood graduates with very different personalities and needs, and they all launched really well from Oakwood. I've had a lot of community involvement. I've been involved not just in the schools through leadership positions, but I've also been involved in the Wright Library, on their foundation board, and on their board of trustees. I've been involved in the greater area with Habitat for Humanity as an advocate for someone trying to buy a home in the program, and then also in fundraising for them for their national or for their yearly campaign, which funds the homes. The reason I wanted and I am on the board of education here in Oakwood is because I really believe in our schools and wanted to support them. And when there was an open position, I stepped up and interviewed and got the appointment. So I just like to continue my work.
Thank you. Okay, Drew, let's go ahead and let you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are running for the school board.
Sure. My name is Drew Moore. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. It's great to have a forum to kind of introduce ourselves and see some faces. I grew up in Oakwood. I went all the way through Oakwood schools, K through 9. I didn't end up graduating from Oakwood, but I've been a member of this community for the first 21 or 22 years of my life. And then about 2 years ago, my wife and I moved back. We've got 3 young boys that my oldest, Cameron's just getting started in the district. We love Oakwood. We love the community. And when we moved back, I just felt I had a good perspective and a good background that I would get involved and ultimately help promote our schools and, maintain the excellence that we've had for so long. Thank you.
Nathan, you now have the opportunity to give us a little information about yourself and why you're running for the Oakwood School Board.
Thank you, and good afternoon, and thank you as well for hosting us today. So a little bit about me. I'm Nathan Reiter, running for Oakwood School Board. I am a proud parent of 3, an active community member, and a former educator. So as a proud parent of 3, I have 3 daughters who are each in the school district here in Oakwood. I am also a community member in the sense that I am dedicated to serving our school district, our teachers, our community at large, and really helping make sure that Oakwood can continue to be the best it can be. And as a former educator, I bring a host of experience in terms of classroom instruction as well as administrative support. So I'm excited to be running for school board and really support the legacy of excellence that Oakwood has. I am excited to bring what I have in terms of opportunity, community, and inclusivity as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to first of all, thank you for participating, but I will ask each candidate the same questions. You will have 2 minutes to speak to each question, and then we'll move on to the next candidate and give them 2 minutes to respond as well. So the first question is, describe the role of a school board member as you see it. And let us start with you, Drew.
Sure. So the way I see it is the role of a school board member is to collaborate with other board members to essentially set policy and set a vision and principles for the district. In simplest terms, a school board member is kind of like a chief advisor for the superintendent. You're there to support and give guidance and answer questions when the superintendent needs help with those day-to-day operations. Ultimately, and lastly, the school board member's responsibility is to be that liaison for the community members, its parents, and anybody that lives within the district, to be that layer of communication between our schools and the district. So when a community member or parent has an issue, a question, a concern, or shows up at the board meetings, it's our job to communicate those back internally to the board and hopefully find resolution or at least give them an answer back. Thanks.
Describe the role of a school board member as you see it. Okay, Nathan.
Yeah, so two of the primary roles, in my opinion, for a school board member is really to serve as an ambassador and then as an advisor as well. So in terms of being an ambassador, it's our job, our responsibility to be really tuned in to the local needs of the community, in touch with parents' concerns, attitudes, kind of what is happening, what are key important issues in the district, and then being able to bring those as our kind of community representation to the rest of the board and work together with the other board members, share in terms of an advisor perspective with a administrative leadership, superintendent, treasurer, others who are part of that as well, to be able to really help provide that community insight and represent the district stakeholders here. And so part of that too, in terms of kind of broad level board member perspective as well, is really helping ensure that collaboration with the superintendent. So key responsibilities of hiring, evaluating superintendent and treasurer, as well as maintaining budget health and kind of driving fiscal integrity as well. And then being able to set and create policy that is beneficial for all of our students and stakeholders.
Okay, thank you. Debbie, describe the role of a school board member as you see it.
So the role of a school board member, as I see it, is first and foremost just to support the students and the educators in this district. And we do that in a variety of ways. One is in hiring the superintendent and overseeing the superintendent and the treasurer. And along with that, that also includes being a good steward of the dollars that run the district and making sure that we are very responsible to our community. Communication is also important, being available to the community to be able to come up and speak to you about things, setting policy. But really, it's really important to know that as a board, you work as a board, you're a unit of 5 people. So as an individual, you have an opinion and you have a perspective, but you're really part of a board, and that's where you do your work, is as a group.
The next question is, as a school board member, how will you address parents' concerns? And let's see, we'll start with Nathan.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, so as a parent of 3, I have 3 daughters who are each in the school district here in Oakwood. I feel like I'm intimately aware of some of the opportunities and needs for that enhanced communication and bi-directional, transparent communication between the schools and then the families. So to really help address parents' concerns and needs, there needs to be active awareness of how parents can engage with the school district, how they can report concerns, opportunities, goals that are important to them, right? And so I think there are a host of mechanisms set in place today. And so a lot of it really relies on how do we spread that awareness for folks to know how to get involved and really to share their voice and their concerns with the whole educational experience for their students and for their families. So part of what I do just in my daily life as well with work is really a collaborative focus. I bring together folks on a day-to-day basis and really help facilitate conversations. So this is kind of one of the expertise that I bring in terms of driving that collective involvement of all stakeholders for full participation, a place where everyone has a voice and everyone's voice is heard, listened to, and respected. And then as such, there's follow-up that needs to happen as well of making sure that we're doing our part as board members and as the collective board to really help create follow-up and action items to those concerns and making sure that we're maintaining, again, that community representation and the reason that we were voted into the board.
Thank you. Debbie, as a school board member, how will you address parents' concerns?
Well, the first thing I will do when a parent comes to me with a concern is listen to their concern and then think about what level does this need to be handled, because there are processes in place for handling concerns. And typically it starts either with a teacher or with the administration of a certain school building. And so I help them to navigate, put them in touch with the right person to handle the situation. And then if they've exhausted that possibility or that process and they haven't gotten closure or the conclusion or satisfaction that they're looking for, then I would take it a step further and work harder with them to get to the answer that they're looking for or the closure. Sometimes as a board member, people are looking for you to maybe overturn a decision that was made at a lower level. And there are reasons why those decisions are made. And that's really not our role. Our role is to help people navigate the system that's in place. And then if there is a problem that needs to be changed, then we get involved.
Drew, you have the opportunity to respond to how you would address parents' concerns.
Sure. In my professional career, I've always prided myself on open and honest communication with all clients. And I think that's something that I would bring directly to the board. It's so vital that when parents are expressing concerns or questions, that we're there for them, that we hear them, and that they know that their concerns are taken in and actually collaborated with in the board. I think it's pretty proven at this point when parents and a school board and its community are all on the same page and feel comfortable talking to each other about certain issues and that type of thing. I think it's always better for the students, it's better for the educators, it's better for the school board, the superintendent, all that are involved. So the best thing that I can do if I were on the board for parents is to make sure that they know when they come to me, they're heard, and that when they actually express a concern, it's going to go to the board and it's going to be a collaborative item that I'll bring up.
Thank you. The last question is, what do you see as the most important issues facing your school district? And we will start with, actually, Drew, I'm going to let you start this one.
Sure. The first thing I did when I kicked off my campaign was set a goal for door knocking. And then secondly, I put out a survey to the community that said, hey, what are your thoughts? Because, it's great that I have my thoughts and concerns about what's wrong with the district, but that doesn't necessarily mean my thoughts are actually what the rest of the community is thinking. So I think it's important that we continue to outreach and make sure that we're hearing the community on what they think their concerns are. A common theme that I've heard between community members is transparency and communication. We can beat a dead horse, and it seems like that's always where everyone goes. But, a lot of the concerns have been surrounding the levy that's going to be on the ballot this November. A lot of community members are feeling that they didn't get all of the information up front to make a vital decision, and then they had to go back to the board and continually ask questions and specifics for what was going to be on that levy. That's one of those things, again, I think in my professional career and as a community member, I can bring another layer of transparency and communication to the public that says, okay, here's what the levy's used for. Here's what's going to happen if the levy doesn't pass. Here's some other things that are, to consider when you go to your vote. It's so important that people have all of the information up front, or it creates that layer of skepticism. Secondly, I think I can bring a fiscal health, outlook to the board. In my current position, I manage a $30 million revenue budget every year. And that's a responsibility that I think can translate really well to our board now. It's a pretty similar budget. And ultimately, I think I can bring that value that says, okay, here's your dollars, here's where they're being spent, and give the community a little less of a concern about if their dollars are being spent wisely.
Okay, thank you. Nathan, what do you see as the most important issues facing the school district?
Yeah, thank you. I first want to acknowledge all of the wonderful things that Oakwood has and has a lot to be proud of, right? When we think about our community members and what people move to Oakwood for, a lot of the reasons are the school district. And some of those key areas where we can improve, I would say the top three based on community voice are communication, fiscal health, and then inclusion. So in terms of communication, again, really honing in on what I mentioned earlier of creating those communicative pathways for a bi-directional channel. So folks can be aware and looped into how can I share my concerns? How can I share my needs? And then from the school's perspective as well, right? There's a need to really enhance our communication in terms of why certain decisions are being made, or what are some of the factors that are going into consideration when we make a certain decision for a school building or for a group of students. And so there's a lot that can really be at play when we talk about communication and helping make sure that parents are involved and collaborators in that decision-making process. In terms of fiscal health, right, there is a lot that can be talked about here. I think when we think about Oakwood schools, we have a $30 million budget. And so it's important to really use our taxpayer dollars wisely. And that's one concern that the district does continue to bring up as well, right? We want that accountability. We want to ensure that our taxpayer dollars are being used appropriately. as a means to really advance that legacy of excellence that Oakwood already has demonstrated. So there's a very delicate balance in terms of how can we wisely steward these dollars while still advancing academic excellence for all learners across the district. And then in terms of inclusion, this is inclusive of all types of students. We have, differences in race, ethnicity, language, background, beliefs, everything that, goes into who makes up or what makes up a person, right? And some of this inclusion is really core to what the community has mentioned when we talk about students who receive special education services, gifted services, ways that we can really customize the education for each learner.
Okay, Debbie, you have the opportunity now to respond and what you see the most important issues facing the district are.
So both Nathan and Drew hit on what I would say is the single most important issue right now facing our district, and it's funding. We currently do have a levy on the ballot, and we are almost entirely funded by property taxes in Oakwood. We don't have businesses to help us support our schools, and so it really does fall on our community to support the schools. I've learned so much about school funding and being on the board this last few months that I did not know about how hard it is to fund, how our hands are kind of tied as far as levies and things like that. And it's not a question of, do we want to do it? It's that we have to do it. And when do we do it? And so I would say that communication is very important, communicating to the community, why do we need it? It's not about misappropriating funds or anything like that. It's that we can't keep up with inflation if we don't go back to the voters and ask for more money. And I would love if, as a school board member, we could be more out there with the community about things like that. But our hands are kind of tied as to what we can say publicly because of a new interpretation of the laws that are out there. And so we really can only talk about what are the facts of our budget. And that makes it hard to ask the voters for money as a school board member when you really can't give your opinion. It's actually not allowed. So I would say funding is the single biggest issue right now for our community.
Thank you. Well, thank you all today for your participation, but we will give you an opportunity to give a closing statement. We'll give you each a minute to do that. And I think we'll let Debbie start this one off.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I also want to say I really appreciate getting to know both Drew and Nathan a little bit better. I think that the Oakwood voters are really lucky to have such great options for school board. I would love to continue doing the work that I've done over this last year because I believe in our community and I believe in our schools, and I think that I can do great work here. And I appreciate the opportunity to just get to share my opinions on those questions that you asked. So thank you.
All right. Drew, let's have you go ahead and make your closing statement here.
Yeah, sure. Similar to how Debbie said, thank you for putting this forum on, and thank you to Nathan and Debbie for participating as well. It's been a pleasure to get on here and finally, verbalize kind of things and ideas that we've had about our campaigns. Ultimately, I think, like I said in this forum, I think I can provide a good parent perspective and also a perspective as somebody who's in business to our board. I grew up in Oakwood and I love this community and I really want our schools to be great. And they are great and I hope we can keep it that way. So if there's any other information, obviously anybody that watches that, please reach out to me and I'd love to have a conversation. One of my goals here is to reach out to as many people via door knocking as possible. When I commit to something, I commit, and I hope that resonates with the people here in Oakwood. I'm already at 1,000 doors in about 2 weeks, and I plan to do about 3 times that. So if you see me out in the community, please ask me any questions. I want to be as transparent as possible. Thanks.
Thank you. Nathan, your opportunity to comment.
Yeah, thank you. And just to echo comments, thank you for this opportunity and hosting the dialogue. It's really wonderful to take part. So really just to sum up, in support of our teachers and our school district, I genuinely am all in for all students to thrive. And I think about why school board, right? Why run? I am committed to really amplifying the positive effects that our schools have upon students, upon families, and then upon the community at large. And so I think, for me, that's really the impact or the reason why I chose to move to Oakwood. I think that's probably a majority of reasons for many folks, many of you listening. And that's the reason why many of us choose to stay and flourish here in Oakwood too. So when we think about how we can support our educators and the school district staff, it's really being there, supporting the high quality education and that commitment to excellence for all learners to be able to thrive and create a sense of inclusion and belonging for each of our Oakwood students and families.
Again, I want to thank you all for your participation today and wish you good luck in your campaigns. The League of Women Voters encourages all candidates to run an issues-oriented campaign. Our goal is to educate the voting public to strengthen the elective political process. The annual Voters Guide will be distributed in mid-October through the Dayton Daily News, AIM Media Suburban Papers, and at local libraries, schools, and businesses. Early voting for this upcoming election will start on October 11, or you can go ahead and request an absentee ballot from your Board of Election. However you decide to vote, your opinion matters only if you do vote and help make our democracy work. The League also wishes to thank the wonderful staff at Miami Valley Communications Council for their assistance today.